Hello everyone, it's Audrey with Movies and the Bible, and today I'm going to be bringing you yet another installment in the Books of Wisdom series, Proverbs 19. So, let's get started with that, with some things to ponder before we dive into the actual study. Because Proverbs 19, one of the main themes is integrity. So, why does integrity matter? Why is doing the right thing when no one's watching or if nobody cares at all still good? Um, what's the right way to handle being corrected? Should we lash out? Should we make excuses for ourselves when we are being told that what we're doing isn't right? Or should we handle them with grace and humility and continue forward in being the best that we can and doing the best that we can? And what are some applications of Proverb 19 that you have seen within your own life, no matter how big or small? Because Proverbs is essentially, about life lessons, about, our day to day. So I hope you're finding a lot of this relevant to you, and it puts in your mind how things should be, how we should be acting at the very least. But yeah, um, for me personally, um, for Proverbs 19, it one of them that really stood out to me, as you're going to see in the study here in a minute, is verse 2. It's about essentially the saying that haste makes waste. Don't rush into things, and have a good working knowledge of everything that's going on before you start out to do something. Don't rush into something just because you want it or like it. But that's something that I've been dealing with here recently, as far as like a personal testimony for myself. Well, I'm trying to get another vehicle and I'm kind of trying to rush to do it, but that's not going to solve anything or help anything. So it's best to take my time when looking for another vehicle to drive. But that's just my personal testimony. Feel free to share yours, and let's get into the study. All right, so Proverbs 19. As always, we're going to be reading from the New King James Version, but I do want to say I know that there's a problem with the audio. Um, I'm just going to need a new computer. There's something wrong with the audio, and I'm not sure how to fix it, so I'm just going to have to get a new computer. So I'm sorry for the audio being a little rough when we start on these. So, as always, I'm going to pray over the Bible study session that it be fruitful, that it provides something new to us, that the Holy Spirit would come in and use me and speak through me to point out anything that I may have missed or He just wants to share at this particular moment in time for us. So I'm always going to invite the Lord in to administer us through His Word. Um, in Jesus' name I pray, amen. And let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to follow along with your own Bible, have a notepad ready or whatever it is, or just listen along. So, Proverbs 1 verse 9, Proverbs 19 verse 1. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than the one who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. And so it is not good for a soul to be without knowledge. And he sins who has hastened with his feet. A foolishness of a man twists his way, and the heart frets against the Lord. The wealth makes many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. Many entreat the favor of the nobility, and every man is a friend to those to to one who gives gifts. All the brothers of all the poor hate him, and how much more do his friends go far from him? May he pursue them with his words, yet they abandon him. Verse 8. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies shall perish. Luxury is not fitting for a fool, much less a servant to rule over princes. The discretion of a man makes him slow to anger, and his glory is to overlook a transgression. And the king's wrath is like a roaring lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass. A foolish son is the ruin of his father, and the contentions of a wife are continually dripping. Verse 14. Houses and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. He who keeps the commandment keeps his soul, but he who is careless of his ways will die. And he who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back what was given. Chasten your son while there is hope, and do not set your heart on his destruction. A man of great wrath will suffer punishment, for you rescue him, and you will have to do it again. Verse 20. Listen to the counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter days. There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord's counsel will stand. Verse 22. What is a desired man in his ways? Kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of the Lord leads to life, and he who has it will abide in his satisfaction. He will not be visited with evil. A lazy man buries his hand in his bowl, and he will not so much bring it to his mouth again. Strike a scoffer with and the simple will become wary. Rebuke one who has understanding, and he will discern knowledge. He who mistreats his father and chases away his mother is a son who causes shame and brings reproach. Cease listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. A a disreputable witness scorns justice, and the mouth of the wicked devours iniquity. Judgments are prepared for scoffers, and meetings for the backs of fools. All right, that was Proverbs 19 in its entirety. So now we're going to go line upon line for Proverbs 19. Starting with the first three verses. As we know, Solomon is the one speaking, and he's speaking to his children. He's speaking to those in which he's instructing and sharing knowledge and sharing wisdom. And for these first three verses, it's better to be poor and humble, and have wisdom and wise in the things of God than to be foolish and rich. That's essentially saying a whole bunch of stuff that's perverted, and which is what we have a lot of going on nowadays. People sharing their opinions, just even that can be somewhat perverse. I mean, people are persuasive, and giving you their ideology and their perspective. But we have to be careful that we are rooted and grounded in what God has to say about everything, lest we be swayed to the other side and have the wrong ideas and notions about how we should be thinking and living. Verse 2, rushing to do things without the proper know-how and preparation is wasteful. And a lot of time we blame God for what we don't understand or know. A lot of people want to blame God for their own lack of understanding about things at times. And I put Willy Wonka here because Charlie, comes from a very poor and humble background, but he ends up, becoming in charge of the chocolate factory. So I thought that was kind of fitting. Okay, verses 4 through 7. Um, like in the previous chapter, money brings about wealth and attracts people, and broke people don't attract nobody. Most of us, you know, um, are wary of those that have very little to offer, and that's not necessarily mean spirited. Um, you can be more burdensome to ask someone in which you don't know, which you know has nothing to offer or give at the present moment. That could be a thing, or and just in general, when we know a person, is lacking financially or lacking in something that we need, we don't really bother to ask them. And but there is, a more negative connotation to that as well. And nobody likes being around people that have nothing. That's just generally most people. A lot of the world now is a quid pro quo. Well, it's like what can I get for your services and offer of my services? Just an exchange and transaction kind of thing at times. But moving on from that, everyone likes uh, everyone likes those that give generously. You have people that even give to those who have nothing and don't expect for anything in return, which is what we should be doing anyway. But yeah, there are those that don't mind it. They'll be around you whether you're poor or not. But it's just like I don't want to say like a rule of thumb or overgeneralize, but generally when you know someone has nothing to offer you, you stay away from them. Not necessarily bad, use good judgment and wisdom on that, and the relationship or what you're dealing with the person for. But anyways, like in verse 7, um, even family members don't want to be around you if you don't have anything to offer. And I put Crazy Rich Asians up here. I like that movie. It was very cute, and it has some of the themes in which these verses are talking about here. Verses 8 through 12. Again, the wisdom of God brings forth life and abundance. Um, and sorry, I'm having a lot of congestion. But lying won't go unpunished, and having patience, and when people offend you, and like I don't want to say turning the other cheek in this instance, but sometimes you just gotta let people talk and not respond. And sometimes people are just having a day, and they're in the mood and all that kind of stuff, and it would do you no good to retort or refute anything that they're saying. Sometimes you just have to stay quiet and let people say what they have to say and move on. Um, and you look like the bigger person, which is in verse 11 where it says, "There's glory in overlooking an offense." And then in verse 12, where it talks about kings, we have two different types of kings essentially. A person of authority and power over others, If he is an angry, mean-spirited person, he's perceived as dangerous and unlikable. But someone and vice versa, someone who is kind and agreeable is looked upon more favorably. And this particular movie, I think it kind of speaks for itself why it's there when it talks about lying. It's a cute movie about that. Okay, well, at least in my opinion, my taste. Verses 13 through 18. This is essentially about family life. This is the common theme of this grouping of verses. And foolish children bring forth distress and ruin to their parents. And you're like, as your parents get older, they should be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor of having gone through life, especially if they equip you with the right tools to make the good decisions for your life. You don't want to be a burdensome child to your older parents, and we see that a lot nowadays about with people having to take care and raise um, their children's children, or we have adults that haven't grown up mentally and are still needing to be watched over and looked after by their parents. There's a lot of different things going on that we see nowadays, but that's just a couple of examples. And yeah, and a quarrelsome wife is essentially annoying, or you can say it a quarrelsome spouse. If you are having to constantly pick fights when and or not even necessarily a wife, but in this kind of text, it's talking about a spouse. It's annoying. It can wear you down. It can become very, very toxic situation. And verse 14, wealth and houses are inherited from parents, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Um, that is very true. Um, like I was saying a few moments ago, if you know anything about building wealth and generational wealth and all that kind of stuff, your parents will hopefully be able to leave you a house, leave you land, leave you some type of financial stability, so you're not starting from ground zero in making your life better for your family, not just your immediate family, but those that come after you. Or if that's not the case, you can be the one to start. Me personally, I'm trying to be the one to start that process for my family going forward. But as we saw also in the previous chapters, that uh, he a man who finds a good wife shall obtain blessings from the Lord. Family and the family structure is by God's design, and I know we have a lot of people and gurus saying this, that, and the third about how it should or should not be. But to be honest, it's nonsense to me. It's just a way to make money when these gurus are going around saying all the nonsense and trash in which they are saying. But we're not here for that. Let's move on. Let's move on from that. uh, uh, a body of for 14, I'm sorry, 15, laziness brings on a deep sleep, and the shiftless go hungry. Um, a body at rest stays at rest. When you're lazy, you don't want to do nothing, so you continue to do nothing. It's a lot. It gets hard to get up from that stillness sometimes. Um, and with motivation or whatever it is, it can be hard to get out of that slump once you fall into that laziness. Um, verse 16, having rules and orders sustain life, And a disregard for rules and order can get you killed. Having a disrespectful mindset towards authority, towards rules, towards things that are in place to keep you safe, even from a young age with your family. Your parents are telling you to do this and to do that, and don't do this and don't do that. It's to keep you safe. And in the same way, God is doing that with Proverbs, with His Word. This will keep you under my protection. This will keep you blessed. This will keep you on the right path. And your parents do the same things with the things in which they are telling you. So I would hope that you would gain some insight from that. Parents are there, or most parents are there to protect their children and keep them safe and on the right path to being a good person, a person of worth and value to those around them, to their society, to their family, to their community. That's how it's supposed to be. We are not supposed to be in this for ourselves, even though the world is telling us otherwise. But let's keep on trucking along. And verse 17, essentially, this is about charity. God will bless those that are blessing the poor and helping the poor. That's essentially what that's saying. And verse 18, discipline your children for their and that there's hope. So, like I was just saying earlier, if you never correct your children, if you are never corrected, you end up a very spoiled and entitled person, and nobody likes that. Nobody likes those types of people, and it can lead to their death. And death doesn't mean just 6 feet under. Death can mean ruin and social standings and financial standings and their job wherever. If you're difficult to deal with, expect to find death wherever you go with that. And that doesn't mean you know physical death. It just means a hard time uh, in life, and not everybody is going to put up and deal with you. And then verse 19 through 23. Um, oh, I'm still right here. Okay. And these verses, it's about, to me, what I got from these verses is like accepting the consequences and let people, sometimes you have to let people fall. I mean, you can't, as they say, save everybody from every mistake in which they made. Um, so let people pay the price for their mistakes, for their foolishness at times. Maybe they will learn something from that. Verse 20, verse 21. Oh, verse 20 I thought was kind of self-explanatory because we've been over it so many times. But really quickly with that one, and listen to the advice of others who have wisdom, who have insight, who have proven to be right. Verse 21, uh, this kind of trips people up a lot, but put God's will and purpose for your life above your own desires, and those things that you are wanting for yourself will and can be added to you. Um, our plans are formulated out of our own desires for something that we want. I want something, so I'm going to make a plan of action for it to happen. But and that's fine. But God comes first. Make sure that you're in His will and plan for your life, and then you know all the others. And He's not trying. And then sometimes what we want might not be the best thing for us. So sometimes He will put things in our path to get us to recognize that that might not be what we really need at times. And hold on, I lost my place. Let's see. Verse 22, it's better to be poor and have a heart that cares for others than rich and acknowledging that you have respect for God and his way of adhering, and his way of adhering to it is the way to eternal life. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm gonna try and say that again because I don't feel as though I got my point across with those last two verses. But essentially, with verse 23, at the very least, as we've read before, in the very beginnings of Proverbs, fear of the Lord is, having the respect for his way, the respect for uh, his way of doing things, which is what we are reading about. And it keeps you out of trouble with that. And then verse 22, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's better to be a person of integrity, to care about others, and have a normal or you know in this context it's saying poor, but you know striving to be rich and being a person that is selfish and foolish. What was it really all for? Okay, you have all these things, but you're not agreeable in any kind of way. You're not someone that God would approve of. So what was it all for? And then we have the Human Torch, and Lightning McQueen as a nod to verse 19 and hot-headedness. Both of these characters, they came back around. They've corrected their behavior, but they were some hot-headed kind of characters. All right, and lastly, verses 24 through 29. Lazy people make excuses not to do anything or even feed themselves. That's what uh, verse 24 is talking about. Um, and verse 25, that once again, let people be corrected that so that they can learn a lesson. And this is essentially a summary, these last couple of verses, at least to me, of or reinforcement of everything that was already said. Just just repackaging it in another way. So to me, at least to me, we can't get around. We can't rearrange the words to try and make it fit. He's giving it to us another way, so we can't get away from what he's already spoken to us about. Um, Children who disrespect their parents are a disgrace, and not heeding to the instruction of your parents often leads to harm. And then the last two verses, 28, 29, uh, people who people who have a hard time will face people who aren't listening or being foolish or mocking, what's right. Well, essentially have a hard time. They do get punished for that, as they should, because some type of correction or consequence needs to happen so that people can learn from their mistakes. And I put Nanny McPhee up for children being disciplined and whatnot. I thought that was a cute movie, a very movie themed Bible study this time around. But all right, takeaway and summary. Um, for this one, I really didn't have much. I mean, it was just a lot of like boom 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 these kind of things, but the overall themes were to be a good a child to your parents, and make sure you're listening to their instruction and keeping yourself out of harm's way, and ultimately to make yourself um, a good child to God and adhering to His word. And the one that stuck out to me the most was verse 2. And don't do anything. try to stay away from doing things without the knowledge of them, and because it can lead to harm, lead to a waste of time and talent. But yeah, that's really all for Proverbs 19. I don't have much to say this time around, but feel free to share your thoughts, your testimonies down in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. Be safe, be wise, be kind.